All right, welcome everyone. We're on page 65 in your regional study guide. We're going to be marking on the Judah map. Number 8 is where we're going to start, but let's begin with prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thanks for your blessings. Just watch over us as we continue to study and learn and just prepare to walk where you walk. Just bless our time together. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So you should have the Judah map, which is number 6, is the one we're looking at. We're going to be marking on that map starting with number 8 on page 65 of your regional study guide. The Judah map is map number 6, page 65, number 8. All right. So we're going to highlight routes from Philistia into the Elah Valley. And so the two Philistine cities that are on this map are Ekron and Gath. And I believe we boxed them last time, if I remember correctly. So that should be there. So go to Ekron, be on the edge of the map west of Ekron. So your Ekron, the one that goes left and right a little bit, the one east and west. Start on the edge of the map left of Ekron. Highlight to that coastal, intercoastal route, the coastal highway route at Ekron. And then we're going to keep going past Ekron, going east and west, down towards Azekah. So you're going to go north, go on the route. When it branches, it's going to join kind of another route. You're going to take the one that goes north of Azekah. So follow that. Yeah. So go southeast towards Azekah. Take the route that goes, when it splits, take the route that goes north of Azekah, and then come down to the road that goes, and join the road that goes east-west. Okay? And you're going to meet the earlier highlight. You're going to see where Soko is. We have that road highlighted or not? Yeah. Yeah. Soko is just about
Doing your own study by yourself, that is easier for me. It's easier to do yourself. I'm distracted.
Teach their own, right? Teach their own.
All
right. And then we're going to go back to Gath. We have that one squared and highlighted. And you're going to go where it says to Ashkelon and Gaza. That road just above to Ashkelon and Gaza. Go there. Go south of Gath. Gath, and then go all the way to Soko. And then highlight the city names, not the dots, of Soko and Azekah. So highlight Azekah and Soko.
We've already highlighted that route, correct? Yes. Okay, good. All
right. Then what we're going to do, so highlight the Soko and Azekah, that's number 9. Then we're going to get our blue marker out, and we're going to do some sweeping blue arrows. And so you're going to go from near Ekron, so from Ekron towards Azekah, saying south of the highlighted route. There's a sweeping arrow kind of south, you're basically a southeasterly arrow from Ekron to Azekah. Just go, don't have to be right on the route, but just go south of the route. Just a 4 or 5 inch line, 5 inch line maybe. And then from Gath, you're going to do another arrow to Azekah, stay north of the route you just highlighted. And then you can write just on one of those arrows, just write Philistines to Elah Valley. That's number 12. Just in black caps. Above, you don't have to do above both those routes. Just above one of them is just fine. Philistines to Elah Valley. All right, so then we're going to do a few blue circles of where the Philistines camped. So do one circle southeast of Azekah on the convergence of the routes between Azekah and elevation 305, that there. So you see how there's kind of like a triangle piece that's there of the roads? I did that in the bottom right corner of that triangle. I did this is a small blue circle there. We're kind of at the crossroads there. Yeah, south of Azekah, and just kind of where the roads meet there in that little area. Philistines camped there. That was one of the places they camped. And then put a second circle around the name and dot of Soko, large enough to include the intersection north of the city in the small valley just west of the city. So you're just gonna do a circle, a decent sized circle around Soko, in its city dot there in blue. And right, we already have the Elah Valley highlighted from last time right next to there. You see that? Yeah. And then right in black caps west of Soko, so between kind of the two circles you just made, right, Philistine camps. And let's stack those letters on top of each other. So west of Soko, so between those two blue circles, just put Philistine camps. Yeah. West of Soko. So just the discussion there, the Philistines barred from the hill country and still angry with their defeat at Michmash, wisely chose the Elah Valley for their campaign against Saul. This valley was a springboard into the hill country as seen on the Judah map. Rugged hill country east of Sorek Valley made a campaign into the hill country from there infeasible. Remember at Michmash, that was farther north, that we talked about last time, or a couple times ago, yeah. And I think that was the one where they wouldn't let David go with Saul. No, that's a different one. So that's a different one. That's a different one. Sorry, that's a different one. That's later. All right. Yeah. And then rugged hill country east of Sorek Valley made a campaign into the hill country from there infeasible. The Elah Valley, on the other hand, provided access both to Bethlehem via the Husan Ridge and to Hebron via the Beth Sur Ridge. Thus, anyone commanding the Elah Valley was in the best possible position to attack northern and southern Judah from the west. This makes the following biblical headline of prime importance. The Philistines gathered their forces of war and assembled at Soko in the Elah Valley, which belongs to Judah. And that's what it says in 1 Samuel 17, verse 1, which probably the heading in your Bible would say, David and Goliath. Right? So that the start of that is, the Philistines gathered for war and camped at Soko, right? And if you look at your map, we circled Soko. You see how it's like just at the entrance of the Elah Valley? And from there, we either go south down to Hebron, or we go east into and over to Bethlehem and up into the highlands. So you see how the Elah Valley really controlled the area up into the hill country. Bethlehem, you can get up into the Benjamin Plateau and all the way up into Ephraim and everything else. Yep. The Bible does not specifically state what led to this particular Philistine-Israelite confrontation. There may, however, be a pattern in the Philistine response. Saul's success over the Ammonites in the north was followed by a Philistine campaign in central Benjamin. And now Saul's victory of the Amalekites in the south in 1 Samuel 15 is followed by a Philistine campaign in the Elah Valley, right? So as Saul has his attention somewhere else, the Philistines now and has success. Well, we can't let him gain his foothold. We're going to come after him and try to attack, right? On one thing is certain, the Philistines did not again use the Ayalon Valley and the Beth Horon Ridge route to attack Saul. That's this northern one that we did last time. The one that's the mark that has the blue and stuff on it up top on the north of our map. That's the one we did last time. They didn't use that again after Jonathan and Saul had routed them that way. Okay.
Elah Valley is more convenient for the two cities.
Yeah, it's closer from their cities. It's only about 5 miles. One thing is, something had changed which was not in the Philistines' favor. All of this makes the campaign against Philistine campaign in the Elah Valley take on prime importance. The Philistines mustered their best men, such as Goliath, and were set on winning. If they won, it was certain that Judah and Benjamin would have suffered the same fate as Ephraim in the sanctuary at Shiloh. To achieve their goals, the Philistines made careful preparations. The location of their main camp may well have been at one of the intersections in your blue circle below Azekah. As in the case of their Michmash campaign, they needed lookout posts to protect this main camp. Azekah's impressive location on the northern end of this long ridge seen on the Judah map provided them an excellent view in almost every direction. Their forward position at Soko allowed their scouts to climb to the summit of a ridge southeast of Soko, the elevation mark of 457 meters, and overlook every ridge into the hill country. This was a perfect staging area for traditional Philistine battle tactics in a major campaign against Judah. They were so confident that they used simple scare tactics to lure the Israelite forces out of the hills or to force Saul's capitulation before an actual battle began. All right, so we're going to mark on the Judah map. So that was the Philistines mustering there. Now we're going to mark on the Judah map. Same one we're working. We're getting orange arrows because this is Saul's leading this Israelite force. So we're going to use orange arrows. One's from Gibeah to Hushah, keeping east and to highlight the ridge, and the second from Hushah there. So from Gibeah. Gibeah is way up here, so on the top right quadrant of your map. So we have, I think we have Gibeah highlighted already. Is that right? All right. Highlighted in orange square. All right. So you're going to go down. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of just follow that route. And at Bethlehem, you're going to take a left turn following the route to Hushah. So you're going to go down following the route and then curve your orange circle over to the left. You see where Hushah is, or Husan? It's got a question mark and a parenthesis. So we're going to follow our highlighted road down. At Bethlehem, we're making a left turn and getting to Hushah or Husan there. Left turn at Bethlehem. Left turn at Bethlehem. Past Kedar to Hushah. Hushan or Husan?
That's an H at the end. It's
Hushah or Hushan. Thank you. So down from Gibeah. Gibeah was Saul's hometown. That was his capital, if you remember. Down past Bethlehem, taking a left turn to Hushah or Husan. And then from that city, from Hushah or Husan, we are going, and we're following to the descent just west of Timnah. So if you follow the road along, you're going. You see Timnah, and we're going to go just a little bit past Timnah. Yeah, it's all right. So just a little bit past Timnah. Almost. You can go all the way to the other road, the north-south road. Somewhere in that area that's where we're going. All right. And then we're gonna get right somewhere along that arrow, Saul to the Elah Valley. We're going to put a small orange box on the road near the west end of the Timnah Ridge route due east of Israel Valley, Saul's camp. So if you go all the way to where we have Elah Valley highlighted, and you see where there's the north-south road there, on the other side, on the north side of the route that goes into the hills, and to the right of that north-south intersect. So you're on the top right intersection of the intersection. Just make a small box in orange and put Saul's camp.
So we say right this, Hushah?
No. Over by the Elah Valley.
Where Timnah is?
So we're going to go left of Timnah, all the way right there.
Oh, right there,
So
okay.
right,
I went too far.
yeah, right there.
Got it.
We're good on that one?
Yep.
Okay. And put Saul's camp. an orange dot on a small rise just southeast of 984 feet elevation. So what you're gonna do is, so if you go catty corner from the box you just made, you see how there's you see where there's at 300 meters, 984 feet? Right basically in the middle of that triangle, put an orange dot. The triangle that the roads make an orange dot there. That's all right. Yeah, mine look pretty close too. All right. All right, and then get your blue out. And then opposite that road, the road that goes on an angle there, opposite that road, just about the same distance that your orange dot is from the road. So there's the 457 meter. So just next to that, put a blue dot. So I added a couple lines to mine. So it has the roads coming through here like this. It'll be right here with a red dot, or the orange dot for Saul's camp there, the blue dot for the Philistine camp there. I added a couple lines like this. That's what it's talking about. Just because there's that confrontation there. The armies are there. I'll show you on the screen what I mean by that. So if you see up there, you can put those lines that way with that road between them facing that. That's where. So if you remember, they lined up and Goliath called out, "Somebody come fight me!" So Goliath would have walked down into the middle between them. Somebody come fight me. If I win, we'll serve you. Or if I win, you serve us. If you win, I'll serve you. We'll serve you. Right? It was kind of this champion conflict method of confrontation in battle. Right? Right. So yeah. So Goliath was the giant, right? This is an aside here. So he was the champion, right? Who was the tallest one in Israel? He was a head taller than everyone else, the Bible tells us. Saul was a head taller than everybody else. Who should have gone and fought Goliath? Saul. But he's not. Right? Again, not doing what God has told, they wanted a king that would protect them and guide them. Saul's not doing it right. All right. So this marking no doubt looks quite specific, but details in the story make this scenario very plausible. We know this is our best guess, is what we're saying with the marking we just did. Look at the area around the Vila Valley and the chalk moat separating the Shephelah from the hill country. It would have been extremely dangerous for the Israelites to venture beyond this chalk moat into the Shephelah, while the Philistine forces could have encircled them. And so they're not going to come too far this way. They were going to be protected by the hills, which are on where the camp is. So they wouldn't have gone too far out when they assembled, because otherwise the Philistines could come in around them and surround them. They want to be able to run back up into the hills if things go bad. All right. Saul and his troops, terrified and extremely fearful, according to 1 Samuel 17, verse 11, would have stayed in the hill country high enough along the Timnah Ridge to overlook the broad Elah Valley and to make a quick escape if that became necessary. The Philistines, for their part, would have thought twice before immediately pursuing the Israelites of the hill country, where canyons, limestone terraces, and places of ambush gave their enemy an advantage. The Saul's camp is located on the edge of the hill country. Here, for well over a month, the Philistines challenged Saul and his forces. Meanwhile, young David had returned to Bethlehem and was tending his father's sheep in the wilderness. Jesse's concern for his 3 older sons who had been conscripted by Saul led him to send David to the battlefield front to check on them. Jesse also sent presents to the commander of his son's unit, which raises some interesting questions. All right. So they're a month here. This is the standoff, because if Saul's army isn't here, the Philistines will march up into the hill country or down into the heart of Judah. This is the crossroads. The people of Israel, if you heard, they're not going to go any farther because they're going to be outmaneuvered, outflanked, outgunned by the Philistines on the plain or in the lowlands. The Philistines aren't going to go any farther without dealing with this army because they know in the hill country they're going to be ambushed by the people that know it much better than they do. And so there's this standoff that's there. The Philistines seem to have the military might, but in their entrenched position, they can't go any farther against Israel. And so there's a standoff for a month. All right, so we're going to do a green line under your earlier marking David in the wilderness. So we had David in the wilderness just to the about an inch or so to the right of Bethlehem, to the east of Bethlehem. We did that last week. So put green underline on that. David in the wilderness. David, son of Jesse in the wilderness, I think is what it is, right? And then we're going to do a green arrow from that place to Bethlehem. So just draw an arrow just around that road or so, whatever, just from there to Bethlehem. And then put a green sweeping arrow from Bethlehem, following the route southwest to Etam. So that road we have highlighted. You're just going to dip down, not going to go all the way to Etam, but you're just going to go south of that yellow, basically south. From Bethlehem, you're going to join that, basically go parallel to that orange one you did for Saul. And you're just going to go south of the road or around that road this time, following the same thing, and take it all the way, that green road, following through Timnah and those things, all the way to Saul's camp, that orange box that we made. So just a sweeping arrow, basically from Bethlehem to Saul's camp. Just north of Edom is kind of dipping down there for a little bit. You're going to cross it a little bit, but generally you're sweeping, going close to the road. That's the route David would have taken. You're going from Bethlehem, And on that one, and then you're going to write in black, David to Elah Valley. On that green trail. So this is where Scripture says David left, his father sent him to go check on his brothers and bring a gift to his commander. All right, so you're looking, that route David would have taken, you're looking is no more than 10 miles.
So this is before
He fights God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he anointed king?
He'd already been anointed king.
That's what I thought.
And I believe he's already served Saul, but when Saul went to, playing the harp, but when Saul went to go fight the battle, David got sent home.
Got it.
Because David he didn't need a harp player on the front lines, I guess. All right, so David's watching the sheep again, but his dad, Jesse, gets worried, so he sent, because it's been a month, for his brother's still alive, see how they're doing, see what's going on with the battle, and so he sends, it's just 10 miles away. I mean, so you think about, that's like, you're leaving in the morning, and you're there by lunchtime.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's going downhill. Now, uphill it might have been a different way, but he's going downhill most of the way, right? I mean, so it's you're looking at, you can walk about 20-minute mile even in that terrain going downhill. So you're talking 3, maybe 4 hours, and he was in very good shape. So I mean, you're not talking more than 3 or 4 hours for him to walk there. So it's not very far. If you really think about that, yeah. So you think about how close the threat was to Bethlehem, right? If the Philistines were doing a forced march, they would easily make it in 3 hours.
Are we gonna get to go to that?
That's the plan.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. We'll plan. Yeah. So that's there.
Sorry.
So here in the strategic Elah Valley, the stage was set for one of the most well-known, best-loved Bible stories, the Battle of David and Goliath. There are many interesting details in the story. David's brothers became upset with David, perhaps because they were jealous of Samuel's anointing of David. It was highly irregular in Middle East tradition to bypass older sons in favor of the youngest. It may have also been due to David's special connection to Saul's court. This was their opportunity to prove their skills, and all of a sudden, young David appears, right? So there's probably a little older brother jealousy, right? The eldest brother snapped at David and then broached the question of responsibility. Who's tending the sheep in the wilderness while you're here? It may appear that the central theme of the story of this is the surprising deliverance of the Israelites from the Philistine threat. The careful reader of 1 Samuel, however, discovers a far more reaching theme. The David-Goliath contest comes at a critical juncture in the book and serves as a watershed between Saul and his irredeemable Benjamite monarchy and David, who a few years later became the first king of the new Judean monarchy. The centerpiece of the story comes from David's mouth as he stands amidst the weapons of war and considers Goliath's elaborate armor and spear. David's simple statements to King Saul set the tone for David's later reign. Don't let anyone's heart fail because of this fellow. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. The Lord who saved me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear in the wilderness will save me from the hand of this Philistine. Right? David puts his faith in the Lord. As David approached Goliath, he carried the same simple weapon he used in the wilderness. Goliath, however, was covered with protective armor, carefully described in terms of number, size, and weight at the outset of the story. This explains his remark, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" David reiterated his statement of faith. You come with sword and spear and javelin, but I come in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel. They drew near, and David slung his stone. This text stops momentarily to emphasize, without a sword in his hand, David struck down the Philistine. The message of the writer is clear. The Lord, the God of Israel, was with David. His last words in 2 Samuel 23, at the very conclusion of the book of Samuel, echo the same theme as the rest of the book. God's abiding presence remained with David in the midst of those who could have harmed him. This is David's word. For does my house stand firm with God? For he has made an eternal covenant with me, arranged in every detail and well secured. For has he not brought forth my every deliverance and each desire? As you read this account, picture the Philistine forces along the slope in the Shephelah, and the Israelite forces along the edge of the hill country, the orange dot, with a dry stream bed between them. The stream bed drains the hill country as far south as Besor, but here cuts through a defined passage, a specific Hebrew term used in the story in order to distinguish this point in the larger Elah Valley. The biblical writer detailed description of the stage adds to the drama of the confrontation which was about to unfold. This is from 1 Samuel. Now the Philistines gathered their fighting forces, mobilizing at Soko, which belongs to Judah, and setting up their main camp in Ephes-dammim, which between Soko and Azekah. Meanwhile, Saul and the men of Israel mobilized and encamped at the Elah Valley above the broad, open area at the eastern end of the valley, on the higher ground, as we will soon learn. Arrayed for battle with the Philistines. The Philistines stood on a hill on one side, and the Israelites stood on a hill on the other side. Now there was a narrow passage between them, where the conversation between Goliath and the Israelites easily could have taken place. And so it seems that they're camped there, but they would come and gather their forces on these two valleys, or these two hills opposite each other. All right. And so we're just going to do a little more reading here in 1 Samuel. Just because, again, this is just a great account that I think is familiar to us, David and Goliath. But just to go a little deeper into this one with now the setting right in front of us in our maps as we look at it. All right. So we talked about how they're camped, and so I'm going to pick up in verse 4. And there came out from the camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath of Gath. And so Goliath's only about 5 miles from his hometown. Right? Not very far. Right? Whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a helmet of bronze on his head. He was armed with a coat of mail. And you see all of those there. And he stood and shouted at the ranks of Israel. Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? Are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourself and let him come down to me, if he's able to fight with me and kill me. Right? And then we go through and talk about that. Now David, verse 12, the son of Ephraim, of an Ephrathite, of Bethlehem in Judah, named Jesse, had 8 sons. Right? We've known about him. It's reminding us there. The first 3 go there. And Jesse in verse 17 said to his son David, take your brothers an ephah of this parched grain and these 10 loaves and carry them quickly to the camp to your brothers. Also take these 10 cheeses to the commander of their 1,000. See if your brothers are well and bring some token from them. So he's like, go, but bring something back so I know they're alive. And so we get this, the battle lines are drawn. As David came near in verse 20, he came to the encampment as the host was going out to the battle line, shouting the war cry. And Israel and the Philistines drew up for battle, army against army, and David left the things in charge of the keep of the baggage and ran to the ranks and went and greeted his brothers. As he talked with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came out of the ranks of the Philistines and spoke the same words as before. But you see that setting as they're going. They're on opposite hills. They can see each other lined up. And this huge hulk of a man comes down, laboring down the hill. And he shouts up, mocking the Israelites on the hill. Now you can picture that scene and see that there. And the Israelites fled, and David says, well, what are you doing? And there's this mocking that goes back and forth. So, so that's some of the highlights there. So put a red confrontation mark between your blue and orange dots. I put mine just on the orange side of the road, but you can put it right on the road right on the road. That's the creek bed is right, road runs right next to it there. So that's like an asterisk right there. But blue flight arrows and orange chase arrows. Israelites under Saul chased the Philistines back to their cities. One set of arrows from the Elah Valley, from the name Elah Valley. So it's going to start at Elah Valley and put one set of arrows. These are blue arrows. Put one set of arrows towards Azekah. These are blue flight arrows. So you're going from the name Elah Valley towards Azekah. And when I do flight arrows, I put an extra. I do it so just distinguish it. I'll put like an extra tail on it. So if you're coming from Azekah, you're going to go like this. Or going to Azekah, you put extra tails on it. And then from Azekah toward Ekron, stay north of the highlighted route. So we went south of the highlighted route with the blue sweeping arrow. This time to make a blue arrow going north, but just have the blue highlighted things going there. And then from Azekah toward Gath, staying south of the highlighted route. Last time we went north with our travel. This time we're going south. And then go back and do orange arrows that just go right next to that, saying that Saul was chasing them. So if this was my arrow, I would do like this. And just don't take it quite as far. Meaning that they were being chased on that.
So just at the very beginning, your Eli Valley.
No. From so you have one set of arrows going from Azekah to Ekron, and one set of arrows going from Azekah to Gath. And so I would go back in my flight arrow, I would go back to Azekah, and just on each one of those, I would just put an orange arrow about halfway, because they're chasing them back to their cities, basically. And then highlight the name Sharim. Yeah, Sharim.
It's easier to just call it,
Okay. So if you see Sharim, it has a question mark there. It's north of Azekah. We did.
Isn't it?
Sharim, it's north and a little bit east of Azekah. Or is word, I don't know, do you guys have it on a different
let's
place?
do east.
Is
Yeah,
that due east?
ours is due east.
Yeah, that's probably a better spot than it is on mine. Yeah, Kira's give off. Mine just has it in a different spot. But that's exactly, that's a better spot for it. And we'll talk about this a little bit too. In the description of the rapid Philistine retreat before the Israelites, more interesting geographical details emerge with a verse which is often mistranslated. The men of Israel and Judah arose with the war cry and chased the Philistines. This is after, like, David's cut off Goliath's head with Goliath's sword. We don't get that in the Sunday school version usually. And he's holding the head up and it's like, hey, look what I got. And he actually just keeps on holding the head because when he gets to Saul later, he's still holding the head of Goliath. So it's like David's just hanging on to this. He's not letting go. And he's got the sword in one hand, Goliath's huge sword in one hand, and the head of Goliath in the other one. We don't get that picture often in our Sunday school book, right? Right. So,
Four-year-olds find it.
yeah. So I don't know. So, the men of Judah and Israel rose with the war cry and chased the Philistines as far as the place where you enter a narrow pastures, even as far as the gates of Ekron. So those are the flight arrows we just did. The wounded Philistines fell along the way of the pair of gates, Sharim, as far as Gath and as far as Ekron. Right? At a glance at the Judah map shows the Philistines' retreat down the open Elah Valley was interrupted by what we call the Azekah Ridge. There are two ways around the high site of Azekah, one to the north, the way of the stream bed floats, and one across a small rise which separates the hill of Azekah from the rest of the ridge. These are no doubt the pair of gates, Shiraim in Hebrew, spoken of in Philistine retreat. However, elsewhere the Bible mentions a city called Shiraim. This city may well be located at a place shown on the Judah map, and if so, perhaps its name comes from the nearby pair of gates. In addition, this passage mentions the Israelite chase up the gates of the nearby Philistine cities and no farther. This is conclusive evidence that the Philistine Gath and Ekron were not far removed from each other, and that the Gath must be located here and not far to the south, or as some propose. Finally, we return to the story's main theme. All right, so as we got it, so they're kind of going by that Shiraim place. They go there. It's not only means. So in Hebrew, you have the names, and names like they are very detailed. Like that they'll we'll name something, but it actually is what it says. And so like this city's named Shiraim, which means two gates, which was unusual because that's two places you have to defend. But there's actually a ruin of a city right where this is at, right just on the hill of there, and it has two gates. So it's a very literal name for this city.
Yeah, it's a beautiful site.
Yeah, and that's where we overlooked the whole Elah Valley and talked about this setting in this story.
But I think we went there. I don't think she planned to take us there.
Oh,
but
okay.
I just begged her to take us there, so she did.
So that's what we did last time. So
I cried.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll return to the story's main theme. David is approaching reign. David's unswerving faith presented him as a man after God's own heart who can lead Israel. In the same way, Saul's early victory at Jabesh Gilead demonstrated his leadership ability. However, the difference was David's simple faith. We heard of the need for such faith from the mouth of Samuel when the Philistines were approaching and the defenseless Israelites. Fix your heart firmly on the Lord, worshiping him alone, and he will deliver you from Philistine domination. This same need for faith in times of crisis was evident in the book of Judges. In one sense, the story of David in the Elah Valley culminates a long series of contests between champions of faith and their opponents. An additional theme in this story is that David's faith stands out in stark contrast to Saul's fear prior to the battle and Saul's frustration after the battle, when young David from Bethlehem of Judah usurped Saul's claim to fame. The writer underscores this when he speaks of Socoh, which belongs to Judah. David often challenged the Philistines later in Saul's reign, but few details of these contests are given. We are told that David was able to achieve more through his good sense on the battlefield than Saul's entire army. David's popularity increased until all Israel, the house of Joseph with the northern tribes, and Judah loved David. Saul had sought this acceptance from the first day of his reign, but David knew a better way which ensured his well-being and granted him a peace within. No matter how difficult his way, through the wilderness as a young shepherd or through his years as king of Judah of Israel. And it just quotes the Lord as my shepherd, just relying on the Lord. Psalm 23 there. Yeah.
It also says in there that Gath must be located here and not far to the south, as some propose. Nobody proposes that.
Yeah.
Because they've been digging for 20 years at the location on our map of Gath. And the evidence, although they haven't found a sign that says welcome to Gath, or Goliath, the evidence is pretty conclusive. that
Which,
major
I think
cities-
is fun and great that, not that it proves the Bible, but it just reinforces the biblical account. Yeah, pretty neat. So we're going to bet 19, Rehoboam. We know who Rehoboam is, anybody, before?
Yeah, he's the son of Saul.
Son of Solomon.
Solomon.
So it's,
Solomon.
so the first three, so you have Saul, you have David, you have Solomon, and then you have Rehoboam. And it was in Rehoboam's reign that Jeroboam, no relation, rebelled, and the northern tribes formed their kingdom, and the southern tribes formed their kingdom.
The brains kind of skipped a generation too, between Solomon and.
Yeah, so Rehoboam listened to the wrong people. He listened to the young guys instead of the old guys, his counselors. So when Rehoboam came to the throne of Judah after Solomon's death, this is about 930 BC, the northern Israelite tribes of Israel staged a successful rebellion, which was led by Jeroboam of Ephraim. Right, so you have Ephraim, right, the chief tribe of the northern kingdom. Right. Tension between Israel and southern Judah began long before 930, but tribes had been held together by the political wisdom and military strength of David and Solomon. After the 930 split, a period begins which some call the divided monarchy. Two kingdoms, Israel in the north and Judah in the south, lasted until Israel's capital at Samaria fell before the Assyrians in 721 BC. The opening period of the divided monarchy was dominated by battles between Israel and Judah for the tribal territory of Benjamin, with its strategic network of routes between the two prominent tribes. For the tribal territory of Benjamin, strategic networks of routes between the two prominent tribes. Sorry. You see these maps. So the chart calls this period the Battle of Benjamin. So it indicates a weaker period for Israel and Judah. In the context of Rehoboam, king of Judah, I skipped up to the next paragraph there. He evaluated his kingdom's security. He must have conducted a careful evaluation of strategic sites along routes approaching Judea's hill country. His choices appeared to supplement fortifications his father Solomon had done. The chronicler records that Rehoboam decided to strengthen specific sites, and his text provides the best single statement on the western defense of the hill country of Judah via the Shevelah. So he becomes king. They're fighting over, so in your map, this top quadrant right here, that was the border, that was the contested territory between Israel and Judah. Sometimes Judah controlled it, sometimes Israel controlled it. So they fought back and forth. So Benjamin was kind of stuck. Yeah. And they wanted to control this area because it had the routes to go down to the Rift Valley and the trade routes to the east. And it had the best routes to get to, right? We talked about the Elah Valley, but really the best routes came out of Benjamin to get to the west. There were other routes, but the best routes came out of Benjamin. So they both wanted to control this area.
They were both Jewish, why couldn't they get along? Right, they were all from the same tribe.
Why couldn't people in 1860 belong to New Yorkers?
Yeah, so it was a civil war, and then eventually that resulted in two countries. And so they were related, but they had different political motivations.
So Judah was the south.
Judah was the south. Judah was David's tribe. So that's you do. There you go. I before J, so I is up top and J is down below. All right. And Israel fell before Judah too. And their kingdom fell. It was destroyed before Judah. All right. In King Rehoboam's 5th year, Pharaoh Shishak, so down here, so Pharaoh, Egypt's way down here, attacked Jerusalem. His campaign, therefore, occurred around 925 or 924. The dating of Rehoboam's defense project is not recorded in the Bible, but it precedes Shishak's campaign in the Bible. Economically, Judah more easily could have financed such a project prior to Shishak's invasion, since Shishak took much of Jerusalem's treasures, which had accumulated under Solomon. This view is supported by the fact that archaeological evidence from Lachish seems to suggest that Rehoboam had strengthened Lachish prior to Shishak's invasion. If this is true, then Rehoboam's fortifications may reflect an attempt to delineate an area he could reasonably defend. And so we're going to mark on the map. Place a small green triangle around the city the city dots of the cities that Solomon fortified. So we learn about this in the Bible, that Solomon fortified cities. He took them and he built them up. He built walls around them. They were outposts, and they strengthened them so that Israel, the United Kingdom, could be defended. So we're taking a small green triangle around just the city dots. First is Gezer. That's way up here on the top left quadrant of your map. So north of Ekron and then a little bit to the east. Just a green triangle around the city dot of Gezer or Gezer. All right. You're going to do lower and upper Beth Horon. So if you follow that, kind of that blue arrow that we did earlier, where David pursues Philistine forces, you're going to come to lower Beth Horon up in just over the fold line. If you go over the fold line up into the hill country, you're going to see lower Beth Horon and another triangle on the city dot. And if you go about an inch to the west, inch to the east, and so to the right, and then a little bit down, you're gonna see Upper Beth Horon. You're gonna put another triangle there. And these are, refers to elevation, exactly. And so this is the route. You see, there were some battles here, weren't there? There were some military things that we've already seen in these areas, so Solomon's wisely fortifying them. All right, you're gonna, and then Kiriath Jearim Baalath south, which is south of Upper Beth Horon. So there's another kind of east-west road. So if you go south about 2 or 3 inches, straight south, you'll see like a Al-Kabiba or whatever in parentheses, and then you'll see Kiriath Jearim Baalath. You're gonna put another triangle there. So about 2 or 3 inches south of Upper Beth Horon. Put a green triangle on that city dot. Right? Again, here's another route into the hill country. Solomon's fortifying the city. He's not going to let people get into the heartland, right? You're going to put another green, those are the green dots there, okay? So in 2 Chronicles 5 through 12, we're going to put a dot around each one marked in this text. So we'll go there, and I'll help you out with that. Yep, another green, small box. We're going to put, we're going to do a box this time, so a square. Also known as a square, right? So around each of the cities mentioned there. So these are the ones that Rehoboam did. Rehoboam lived in Jerusalem, and he built cities for defense in Judah. He built Bethlehem. So if you go south of Jerusalem, about 3 or 4 inches, you'll see Bethlehem kind of right on the ridge route there. Put a green box around that. Etam. If you go about an inch or inch and a half southwest of Bethlehem, you'll see Etam. We've talked about it a couple times, just below that route. We are on 2. I'm reading from Chronicles, which is where the names are. It's not in, so you see it says read 2 Chronicles 11, and beginning with verse 6, put a small green box around the dot of each city mentioned in the text. So you don't have the names listed for you in here.
Okay,
All right?
and what's the next one?
So Bethlehem, Etam, which is about an inch and a half southwest of Bethlehem. Then Tekoa is the next one. So Tekoa south. So Etam is southwest of Bethlehem, near the road. And then the next one is Tekoa, which is about 2 inches south of Bethlehem, 3 inches south of Bethlehem, right next to that road.
It's due south. Tekoa. Yeah, that's important there.
So
Is that, okay. All right.
and then Tekoa is right here. You find Tekoa everywhere you know. All right. The next one is Beth Zur. Beth Zur. That one's gonna be farther south.
And it's right next to where it says Judah.
So we have a box around Judah already, right?
Green box, that's yours right next to Judah. It's just to the left of Judah.
And then we're gonna put a Soko, which is in the Elah Valley, which is where we're just doing all that stuff up in the Elah Valley.
It's already got a blue circle.
So we just put a little box around the city dot. All right.
Got that blue circle.
Yeah.
And then we need one around Adullam. I'll be fine looking for it. Oh, south, yeah, so just south of our battle between David and Goliath, right here. So Soko and then Adullam, right? And then we're gonna go over to Gath and put one around Gath. So at this time, Judah controlled Gath.
That's not the right gap.
Nope, that's not the right Gath?
It's a different gap. You have to go to the Megiddo Moraseth gap. which is about, it's southeast
Oh, thank
of
you.
our Gath.
Thank you. Not Gath of Philistines, but Moresheth Gath.
Dorset Gath.
And so I don't have that one marked. I gotta redo that one right. Oh, I do have that marked. So if you go to Azekah,
Just go down the road from Azekah, it's the first one
you can mark Azekah with a green dot while you're there. And then go south of there, you're gonna see Makedah question mark, Moresheth Gath question mark, TL whatever it is there.
With the England parentheses.
Yeah. That, put a green dot there.
Green dot.
Put a square around the green dot. Yeah, box around the green dot. Marishah,
Directly south.
directly south of that, about 2 inches. All right, and then I'm going to skip one and come back to it. But just to the, if you go southwest of there, you'll see Lachish or Lachish.
Just south of that.
Southwest of there,
Got it.
Lachish or Lachish. All right, we're going to come back and catch. Going to come back and catch. I missed Ziph.
Oh, Ziph is over on the other side
Oh.
of the map, it's south of Hebron.
All right, so you see Beth Zur next to Judah. You're gonna go south and you go ahead and put a box around Hebron, and then keep going on that road south, and you'll see Ziph. Put a box around Ziph. So Beth Zur, so right next to Judah. Go about 2 inches, 3 inches south, and put a box around Hebron. Go a couple more inches south and a little bit east, put a box around Ziph. Everybody got through Ziph yet? Okay. Go back to Hebron. And then go about 3 inches to the west. And you're going to see Adorim. Or Adoraim, I guess that is. We already did Lachish. Which one? Adoraim or Lachish? Lachish, I think we already did. That was the one that,
Lachish is over on the,
far left part of the map.
we should visit Lachish.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool site. Did we get Azekah yet? So back towards Soko, Azekah, we have the blue arrows going toward that. That's just to the west of the Elah Valley. There should be one around Azekah. All right. So he fortified all these cities. This is a big building project. I think about a government building project. He's fortifying, he's strengthening, he's building up walls and gates and all that kind of stuff. Right? This is a big undertaking he's doing. But he knows that there's a threat coming from Pharaoh. And it's still not enough. All right.
Apparently, he sees a threat from his former brothers to the north.
Yeah.
Because he
Builds up there as well. All right, so we need one in Zorah. So if you're in Azekah, you're going to go north, north of the. So it's just north and a little bit to the east of the Sorek Valley, which I think we have highlighted there. Zorah, Z-O-R-A-H, Zorah. Green box again. We're almost done with the green boxes. Ayalon. So go north of there. We highlighted the Ayalon Valley, but there's a city named Ayalon just south of that. I put a green box there. And did we get Hebron already? You have to put a box around Hebron? Yeah. So they don't have them all geographically listed. Kind of they jumped around a little bit. But just step back and take a look. He's got most of the routes into and out of his territory from the west covered. You have to pass by at least one of these fortified cities for anybody to get into the hill country. All right. So before,
the Philistines have really been, they've been subdued.
yeah, David really subdued them. Solomon finished the job politically.
They're
So-
still around.
So normally you'd have read that verse from Chronicles, right? Rehoboam lived in Jerusalem. He built city defenses for Judah. He built Bethlehem, Etam, Tekoa, Bethzur, Sokoa, Adullam, Goth, Mareshah. And by this point, your eyes would have glazed over, right? But now, as you look at that, it says in verse 11, he says, he made the fortresses strong and could put commanders in them and stores of food and wine and oil, and he put shields and spears in all the cities and made them very strong. So he held Judah and Benjamin. As you look at the map, you can actually see militarily and strategy-wise why he needed and wanted to do that, and why those specific cities. Okay, all right. So we're now on number 3 on page 68, marking there. With careful attention to regional perspectives, the ridge routes in the hill country, valley routes in the Shephelah, strategic crossroads, and approach to Jerusalem from the east and south, highlight the following natural routes. So we're going to get our yellow out. We're going to highlight the routes. From Bethlehem, we're going to go basically straight south to Tekoa. So we got a green box around both Bethlehem and Tekoa. So we're going to highlight the road going south to Tekoa, and then continue to follow that road southeast from Tekoa, and off the map where it says to En-Gedi and Moab.
You look at where he did all these fortifications. He's forcing whoever comes up from the south to have to fight him in 2 or 3 places.
Yep.
Before they, in one place, he would have to fight him. If he came straight south from Arad, he'd have to fight him in Zeph, Hebron, Bethzur, Etam, Bethlehem, before he could get to Jerusalem.
Yep. All right, letter B, go back to Bethlehem, and we're going to go south. So we're going to go south, but we're going to go a little bit west first. So go to Tekoa, go from Bethlehem, to Hebron on Ziph. So you're going to, we're going to go the route. Oh shoot, which one do we go? Partly already highlighted.
We highlighted a lot of things. Are we going through Tekoa or are we going through?
Isn't this the one where you go past Edom?
Yeah, go towards Etam first, and then go south towards Bethzur and Hebron and south off the map. So from Etam, go south, Bethzur, past Hebron, past Ziph. So all those boxes that we have the green boxes around. We highlighted maybe some of it already. Yeah. All right. And then all the way from Ziph to off the map to the bottom. Okay? Just make sure you have that one highlighted. And then from Hebron, so go back up to Hebron. And we're going to go to T-Halif, which is the bottom corner of the map, but you're going to go via Adorim. So we have from Hebron, go take it to Adorim. We have a green box there. And then keep going. And then when you get to that first crossroads, go south and west towards Tibet Merishim. Mersim, thank you. And then off the map, south. And then off the map, south. And then a diagonal route from Lower Beth Horon to Lachish. So we're going way up north. Lower Beth Horon, we have a green triangle around. All right. And so we're going to go toward, go kind of south on there toward Sephar Lakatiah to Ayalon. We have a green box around Ayalon. And then keep going south. You're going to pass towards Eshtola. You're going to go, when you get the fork, take the left fork towards Beth Shemesh. So, yep. So Beth Horon to Ayalon. This is letter D. Beth Horon to Ayalon. And then you're going to go south from there past Eshkatol, all the way down past Azekah. And you're going to keep going south there past Makkedah. And then near Lachish, and then off the map. All right, then we're gonna go back to Iolon, once you get that one done. We're gonna go back to Iolon up here in the north. And you're gonna take the southern route by Kiryat Jearim Baalath up to Gibeon. And join that other highlighted route that you already have there. Yep, we're gonna start at Iolon, and you're gonna go towards the southeast, and you're gonna go up into the hill country. We have a green triangle around Kiryat Jearim Baalath, so you're gonna follow that road there. When we have the two, the North Fork and the South Fork there, take the Northern Fork, go to Bedu, past Gibeon, and to join the road, and then take that all the way to Gibeon there. And join the highlighted route already. So these are the major highways.
All right.
So just take that in for a minute of what you just did. Compare those and just take in, don't worry about the names, but look at the highlighted routes. These are the main routes. You see the green cities? They did that with purpose. You got the different areas there. The ways to get into the hill country are highlighted now for us, these routes, and this is exactly where they fortified. This is the discussion part there. I'm just doing that, just highlighting some of those things. Whether it's in the south from the Dead Sea, or from the south to the Negev, or up north, or from the west, Rehoboam secured the hill country in these three directions. One wonders what policy he followed to the north in Benjamin. Since the fate of Benjamin was not yet decided, Rehoboam may not have wanted to establish a northern border with Israel in hopes of winning the north back to Judah. He may not have applied the same priority in the territory of Benjamin as in Judah proper. So there may be different varying reasons of why he didn't fortify, like Mizpah or Ramah or Gibeon or Gibeah, for instance, because they're still were there. They did that later. That happened later in the reigns of Judah and Israel, where they both fortified different cities. But it does fortify like Upper Beth Horon, which secures the route from the west.
And Solomon had already fortified Upper Beth Horon, Lord.
Yeah, Solomon had done that.
Gezer,
Yeah.
And he had done all that before, and that had only been like maybe 40 years
Yeah.
before.
And he probably, I think he even fortified some of these cities, but he did fortify some of these
He
cities.
definitely did Lachish,
Yeah.
because there's a Solomon gate there.
But his son Rehoboam re-strengthened some of them, which he thought were most important. Okay.
One of the things you're gonna see that's a hallmark of when you have a pretty good idea that Saul reinforced the city is that his builders had a very distinctive gate, a 6-chamber gate that they made. And so even there's some places in the Bible that the Bible doesn't tell us that Saul reinforced, like for example, Megiddo, but we know that Solomon reinforced it because we find a 6-chamber gate at Megiddo, so we know that Solomon did something there.
So note that Rehoboam supply depots and military installations along the diagonal routes of the Shephelah secured the western approaches to Judah's heartland. Special attention was given to the approaches to Hebron from the south through the Shephelah, where Rehoboam strengthened Soka and Adullam along the route leading to Bethsur. David had used Adullam as a stronghold to fight from Saul, and from the hill to the north of Adullam, the Philistines had surveyed Saul's camp. Like the Philistines, Rehoboam's garrison had a splendid view over the hill country, and perhaps eye contact using signal flares. So do a red underline of the sites from Pharaoh Shishak's campaign list. Gezer. So that is going to be up here in the north, right in the middle of the top left quadrant. We have a green box around that. So triangles, thank you. Put a red underline under Gezer. It's damaged on inscription, but probable. So it's like we think it's that. It's got like at least one of the right letters on it, but we're Rebute. So that's got so if you go from Gezer kind of just to the east and then a little bit to the south, and not on one of the roads we highlighted, you'll see Rabbah ? Rebute ? Put a red line under Rebute. Ayalon, which is now farther, farther to the east and maybe a little north of there. I put a red line under Ayalon. You can see that they're going here in the Ayalon Valley. Kiriath Jearim. So that's they're taking that. That's on the highlighted route. If you go south and east from Ayalon, you'll see the green triangle there. You see Kiriath Jearim, Vala. Put a red underline there. Right. You'll see Gibeon. So if you go farther up on that yellow highlighted route, kind of where it joins the other one, you see Gibeon in central Benjamin Plateau there. And then Zemarim in the top right corner. So basically straight north of Gibeon, I believe, is where I have Zemarim. Is that where it is on your map?
It's northeast.
Yeah. So just to the left of the ridge route there, I think. Not too far from Bethel was. All right, so these are the Shishak's campaign that are there. So do sweeping blue arrows. Go back to Gezer out here on the coastal plain, Gezer. And you're going to do a sweeping blue arrow from Gezer to Gibeon, kind of that southern route next to those cities that we underlined in red. So you're going to just do a to Gibeon. So in blue, this is Shishak. Gibeon we underlined in red as well, up in the central Benjamin Plateau. So from here to here. And then do a sweeping arrow from Gibeon up to Zemarim, that last one we underlined in red. It's in blue. And then write in black, black caps along that Shishak's attack. Yeah, you're just to the right of that. Yeah, so perfect, and then we're right up to there. Great.
What is it called from here to one?
Up to Zemarim. And then write in black caps along that first blue arrow, Shishak's attack. Shishak, Pharaoh Shishak. The Bible does not list Shishak's conquests. However, the Pharaoh recorded his context in the land between, right? Because when you're writing, often you don't write your defeats. The Bible includes way more than any other book. But often you didn't write those things. But Pharaoh did. So between the walls of the Arnon temple at Karnak in Upper Egypt, he depicted the god Ammon in large relief with a sickle sword in his right hand. His left hand tightly holds cords which lead to small figures. Names on these figures represent the city Shishak had conquered. Names from central Israel are included in the list and no doubt follow Shishak's route if the lines of the inscription are read in the proper order, like a snake twisting from left to right, and then right to left, and then left to right, etc. After taking Gaza on the southwestern coast, Shishak probably captured Gezer, a damaged name on the inscription, and from Gezer proceeded via the island valley to Gibeon, destroying Beth Horon, Kiriath Jearim on the way. Shishak does not list Jerusalem as a conquered city. With Egypt's army poised for attack from Gibeon, Rehoboam apparently decided to give Shishak what he had come for, the riches accumulated by Solomon. Shishak no doubt felt these belonged to Egypt in the first place, since his predecessor had allowed Solomon to exploit commercial links along the coastal highway. Jerusalem was saved from a siege and sacking, but Judah's infrastructure and its financial base were severely damaged. Shishak's list of conquests includes many sites in the Negev and farther south. Thus, the extent of damage in Judah went far beyond the Judah map. Shishak could not have been happier. As usual, the chronicle provides the spiritual reasons which lay behind Egypt's lightning attack. And we're not going to read that in 2 Chronicles, but it has to deal with Rehoboam worshiping false gods. The gods of the land, the Baals. Right? We could have guessed that, right? No. So overview from Azekah. So Azekah is right here on our map, just about, we have a green box around that. So just as we kind of think there, kind of put yourself there as you look different ways and around you. As in our study of the regions, we again turn to the writing of George Adam Smith for a portion of his call for description of the Shephelah in the 19th century. So this is he wrote about this land of Israel in the 1800s. It was reprinted in the 1900s, right? Over the plain, as you come up from the coast, you see sloping moorland break into scarps and ridges of rock. And over these, a loose gathering of chalk and limestone hills, round and featureless, with an occasional bastion flung out in front of him. This is the Shephelah, a famous theater of history of Palestine, debatable ground between Israel and the Philistines, the Maccabees and the Syrians, the Saladin and the Crusaders. Although it is rough, happy land, with its glens and moors, its mingled brushwood and barley fields frequently under cultivation, but for the most part broken and thirsty, with few wells and many hiding places, just the home for bordermen like Samson, and just the theater for that guerrilla warfare, varied occasionally but by pitched battles which Israel and Philistine, the Maccabees and the Syrians, the Saladin and Richard waged with each other. The chief encounters between those foes naturally took place in the wide valleys which cut through the Shephelah maze. The strategic importance of these valleys can hardly be overrated. They do not belong to the Shephelah alone. Each of them is continued by a defile into the heart of Judah, not far from an important city, and each has at its other end one of the 5 cities of the Philistines, but some misidentified in Smith's day. To realize these valleys, to understand the wars that have been fought on the western watershed of Palestine from Joshua's time to Saladin. That's the Crusaders, right, with King Richard. So even the Crusader wars in the Crusader kingdoms happened in the same land, the same places. We're not going to spend a lot of time there, but he talked about it. From an overview of the Shephelah, we climb to the lofty side of Azekah and enjoy the vista from its summit to the west. So we're looking out towards the left side of our map. One looks out on the coastal plain beyond the cities of Gath and Ekron. The hill of Gath is clearly seen above lower surroundings at the mouth of the Elah Valley. Considering the prominence of both sites, they no doubt were used as signal stations, perhaps by Philistine scouts from Gath when its troops invaded the Shephelah, but certainly by Judah when its troops at Azekah relayed information to those watching from the edge of the hill country. You guys know about like signal torches, right? They place in the high places and you can see from one mountain to another. And you'd light the signal if you were in danger, or you'd put different lights, or you'd cover it up to give different kinds of signals so that you could communicate over long distances that way from the tops of these hills. Right. The view to the east, so we're looking to the right from there, presents an overwhelming panorama. The strength of the Judean arch, the great upfold which has formed the hill country, dominates the scene. It is a solid bulwark running from north to south, where it rises over 670 meters above our vantage point and is clearly seen on the Judean map. Any army invading Judah from the west sooner or later came face to face with this limestone bulwark and had to search out the most practical ridge to follow to reach the interior. If we were to transport ourselves to the top of the Judean arch, we could look down upon Azekah beyond these same ragged defiles and strong ridges and feel secure, far removed from the wars and rumor of wars along the coastal highway. Back at Azekah, we take a short walk around the circumference of the site and look down at steep slopes to trace, as high as an eagle's nest, as one Assyrian king wrote, to trace the network of routes which surrounded the site. The southern gate between Soka and Gath cannot be seen, but on the north we look straight down the valley floor to the northern gate. We are now ready to survey selected events which transpired here in the Shephelah. As you read, locate the sites on the Judah and SCA maps, which mentioned below, not printed in bold. A few of these sites do not appear on either map. Right. So we're not necessarily going to be highlighting, but just want to kind of go through these events here as we finish this section. So during the Egyptian dominance, this is the time of Joshua and Judges. Joshua led his military in surprise attack on those besieging Gibeon in the central Benjamin Plateau. So up here, right? So we have David pursues the Philistines, right? Like, that's the same route that Joshua pursued. As we go from along this right upper Beth Horon, lower Beth Horon, down through the Island Valley towards Gezer. That's the same route that Joshua pursued, what we're talking about. Forces from, they were routed before Joshua and fled from Beth Horon Ridge into the Island Valley. This is the middle of that paragraph on page 70, the one under Egyptian dominance. From there, they turned south to the Sorek Valley. Some perhaps fled all along the diagonal road as far as Azekah. If Makkedah lies farther south along this route, perhaps there are more Sheth Gath on our map, as some believe, then we need to look no further. However, other places, which would mean some fled due south of the Isle via the Chalk Moat and through a more complex region to Makkedah. Of course, they also could have reached this Makeda via other routes from Azekah. After Israel had settled in the hill country, some problems persisted, and Joshua had overcome the hill country of the Anakites, but some still lived in the coastal area of Gaza, Gath, Ashkelon. With the remnants of these Anakites, the Philistines were still controlled the 5 principal cities along the coast. We can see many of those regions there. The tribe of Judah received the bulk of the Shelah with its importance, inheritance from there as we look. So, if you remember, Joshua came up with his army this way off the map, and they were in Gibeon, the city we have highlighted. If you remember, they tricked Joshua. They pretended like they were coming from a distance because God had told the people of Israel not to make peace with anyone. Where are you from? We're not making peace. Oh, we come from a long way away. And their clothes were worn out, and they had old saddlebags, and they got the raggedy-looking animals to have their beasts of burdens. They packed stale bread to begin with, right? And they deceived them. And so they made peace with Israel. Well, the rest of the city-states around them didn't like that, so they all gathered together and came up to fight against Gibeon. Joshua then defended Gibeon, pursued them down the Ayalon Valley, and they spread out in different ways here. This is where Joshua prays to God and the sun stands still, and this is that account from Sunday school. But it's in this northern area in the Ayalon Valley that happens. Okay. The nations emerge and compete, so we're looking at Saul and David. We see the difficult battles with the Philistines. They were fought along all of these, especially in the Ayalon Valley and the Elah Valley. These are fought. David there continued to struggle. He does the same kinds of things that are there. We're not going to go through all of that. Let's go to the top of page 71. Location of Rehoboam's fortifications we already talked about. That he controlled all those things. We have the green boxes and triangles from his and Solomon's fortifications. Asa, Rehoboam's grandson, marched his armies past Azekah to face a Cushite Ethiopian invasion in the valley of Mareshah. Right, so you have, so you're looking, for Azekah over here. So you get these battlegrounds that are there. Jehoshaphat, Asa's son, recovered some of the western territories, placed garrisons in fortified cities, received tribute from some of the Philistines. And Azekah was probably strengthened there. Jerome, Jehoshaphat's son, lost ground as the Philistines in the west and Arabs in the south revolted. Joash saw Hazael of Damascus farther north, reached as far south as nearby Gath. So he came this way and reached Gath, so kind of surrounded him from the west. Hazael prepared to march to Jerusalem and could have led his troops past Azekah had he been not paid off by Judah's king. So he's in Gath, ready to come this way, and the king of Judah at that point, Joash, pays him off. Amaziah, Joash's son, challenged Jerome of Israel, but Jerome defeated Amaziah at Beth Shemesh in the Sorek Valley, just north of Azekah. So up here, Beth Shemesh in this area. Right? In almost every generation, this is the last paragraph before under empire controls, during this period, something recorded in the Bible occurred in the regions we see from the vantage point of Azekah. The worst, however, was yet to come. And so see the significance of these valleys. They're repeated over and over again. They're the battlegrounds of Egyptian kings. Empires control. This is where we're talking now about Assyria and then Babylon. That's what we mean by empires. Azekah witnessed expansion under Uzziah. This is Uzziah is best known for as the start of Isaiah chapter 6. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord mighty sit on the throne and the seraph that covered, right? That's how that chapter starts. That's probably how most of us know that name Uzziah, is when Isaiah has this vision of holy, 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 Lord God of Sabaoth, right? As the angels are singing. Uzziah who pushed through the Shephelah and captured Gath, Jabneh, and Ashdod, also built Judean settlements in the vicinity of Ashdod. Ahaz, Uzziah's grandson, lost ground, attacked from the northland by Pekah of Samaria, and resident of Damascus, occupied his full attention. The Philistines were able to capture sites in the Negev and the Shelah and place settlers in Ayalon, Beth Shemesh, Gederoth, Soka, Timnah, and Gimzo. Ahaz called to Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria for help, and Tiglath-Pileser annexed Philistia. Right? So you call somebody to help. It's good for a while, but when they're more powerful than you, they eventually will take you over too. All right, that's what happens. Tiglath-Pileser, Assyria. If the Egyptians encounter encouragement, Hezekiah, Ahaz's sons, expanded. He rebelled against Assyria, moved into Philistia, deposed the Assyrian puppet king of Ekron, and prepared for the Assyrian reprisal. Sennacherib, king of Assyria, retaliated. From his annals in the biblical text, we can reconstruct a systematic campaign through the Shephelah. He came down the coast from the north and recaptured Aphek and Joppa, along with other lesser cities in the area. He continued on to Timnah and then west to Ekron, but he had to engage an Egyptian army at El-Tikah, northwest of Ekron. When free to move against Judah again, he laid siege to Azekah and recorded his actions there and the address to his deity. Right, so we know Assyria is the one that eventually destroyed and deported the northern kingdom. But they also waged war against the southern kingdom. God saved Jerusalem when Hezekiah was shut up in Jerusalem and sent an angel to destroy the Assyrian army. But at that point, the Assyrian army had pretty much decimated all other Judean strongholds. And it talks about that in Scripture, but also the Assyrians talk about that, and we have that in history that backs that up. Right? Against the land of Judah, Sennacherib writes, I marched, the province of Hezekiah of Judah, against the city of Azekah, his stronghold, which is between my border and the land of Judah, like the nest of the eagle located on the mountain ridge, like pointed iron daggers without number reaching high to heaven. Its walls were strong and rivaled the mountains, to the mere sight as if the sky appeared as its head. The city of Azekah I besieged, I captured. Right? From Azekah, Sennacherib no doubt marched west to nearby Gath, then south to lay siege to Lachish, and later attacked Libnah. His conquest of Lachish was a trophy, and on his return to Assyria, he chose to decorate an inner room of his palace with reliefs illustrating his cruel siege of Lachish. Got a picture of that somewhere else. But the siege ramp that's there, they basically used Judeans that they had captured from other sieges and forced them to build a siege ramp. And so the people inside of Lachish had the choice of either shoot and kill their brothers, cousins, countrymen, or let them build the siege ramp, which eventually would destroy them. Yeah.
And that siege ramp is still there at Lachish, you can still see it. And you can also see the remains of a counter ramp that the Lachish residents built to try to defend themselves.
Well, so they're up here and they're building it up here. Yeah, it really is. All right. Azekah again witnessed expansion and rebuilding under Josiah. A Hebrew Ostrakhan found a coastal fort speaks of Israel's governor residing there. This and other factors in Josiah's reign point to Judean expansion at the expense of the Philistines. The final chapter on the Judean monarchy again focuses attention on the Shephelah and the significant fortress of Azekah and Lachish. When Zedekiah rebelled against Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar moved against Judah. Jeremiah marked the steady progress of the Babylonian campaign with the bitter note. Jeremiah, the prophet, spoke all these words to Zedekiah, king of Judah, in Judah's capital, Jerusalem, as the army of the king of Babylon was fighting at Lachish and Azekah, the only fortified cities left in Judah. And Ostrakhan from the gate area at Lachish notes further progress in the Babylonian campaign and records, those are messages back and forth they found written down. I think those are on stone. Is that right, Tom?
What they did was they would recite, jars would get broken, and they would write messages on the remnants of the jars.
Yeah. That's an Ostrakhan. Perhaps someone eagerly watching each night from a position high in the hill country of Judah. We are watching for the signal fires at Lachish. We cannot see Azekah. All right, we'll end there. We're going to end there. We finished on page 71, so we're going to do kind of the event 7. We'll start there next week. Just a reminder, we're not going to finish the study guide in our group discussion. We'll hopefully get through event 21. We'll do event 20 and 21 next week. And so you'll have events 22 through 24 to do on your own if you choose to do beforehand. So we got through a ton of it. If you aren't able to do that on your own, don't stress. But we've gotten through so much of it. What you've learned, what you've marked, what we've gone through will well prepare you for what we're going to experience in Israel.